And we are live on Oz Property Investors. We bring the big names and we have the big fun. How you going, Ross? That's
very
cool
well.
Background out. Sorry, man.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I'm jealous.
Go
You
the
have
Simpsons.
to. My people will have to speak to your people and set me up. So how you going anyway, Joe? What's happening,
mate? I'm fabulous. I am absolutely immaculate. How are you? More importantly,
really good actually. Just loving life, mate. I mean, I wish you. I hope the weather stays boring. We're going to talk about weather. We're going to talk about property. We're not going to talk about the weather. I'm going really well. Let's get into quotes. I'm excited about tonight's session because we have not a lot of people give the bare bone details of property development. Some people want to sell their courses, and Ross isn't here to sell a course. He's here to give as much value, give as much content as we can. So shall we get in? Let's do quote of the week.
100%. Yeah, well, I think this is going to be an exciting episode because South Australia is actually one of those states. It's probably the easiest state that I've found to understand the development code and to understand how to go about developing property development. So if you are a beginner investor, I think it's a really interesting place to start first looking. And Ross, you're an absolute expert in South Australia. You've been 50, 60 developments yourself and run your own development agency, Gambit. And I'm excited to unpack the little intricacies of the South Australian market and learn a little bit more, mate. I'm ready for it. What's your quote of the week, Ross?
Your network is your net worth.
Yeah, that's 100%. I think that's an under quoted or understated quote because the understanding, with the relationships, particularly in property, but in a lot of aspects of life, is absolutely vital.
Yeah, I think people don't put enough value on seeking expert opinions, and going and just getting other people's opinion, whether it be an agent, whether it be a broker, another developer, a builder, and just asking all the different people, all the different questions, and then getting their feedback, and then you could get a bit better of a more whole picture.
Yeah. Actually, that leads in quite nicely to my quote of the week, which is ask the dumb questions. I see this all the time where people walk in and they go into this meeting and they think they know it all. They think they're the best of the best. But exactly like Ross says, like you should be an expert in what you're an expert in and then use experts that are experts in what they're in. Like there's no way I could go out there and be an expert property developer as well as an expert buyer's agent and an expert property manager and an expert real estate agent and all these other experts. You leverage the people that are those experts.
Yeah. I just want to count how many times you said expert in that sentence, Joe. That was fabulous. Hey, Joe's on fire. He's excited. That's I completely agree, Joe. I think it's important to understand, stay in your lane, and get the people in the lanes that you don't play in. Really get those people in your property vehicle, so you can drive to the destination you want to get to.
Mm-hmm. I like it. What's yours, Jeff? What is your quote? Is that your quote?
So mine, I thought I actually did pretty well this week, if I say so myself. An investment in knowledge pays the best interest. So we're all about here, I suppose, getting people who have done a lot of cool things in the projects that they're doing. So I think that's going to be, if you're interested in learning a lot about development, then Ross is a person you're going to be getting paid dividends from spending time listening and watching this session.
Thank you.
Bloody oath.
Yeah, your session done. Here we go. Done. Pumped him up. So before we get into what are we going to talk this week, we are going to talk about the big changes that happened in South Australia, which Joe alluded to, which made things a lot simpler to understand. Right? Whereas before, so we'll talk about what it was before and what it was after. That'll be a bit of an entree. The main course, which we sort of pumped up as the Goosebumps, Choose Your Own Adventure. I love those books as a kid, so it's very nostalgic. We're going to talk about the different property development journeys, including case studies and numbers as well, I believe. So we're going to be that's going to be epic. But not only that, we're going to have dessert as well. We're going to have a live deal that Ross has handpicked, ready for us to devour as a sweet treat. So if you stay to the end, you'll get absolutely rewarded with a free course dinner tonight on Oz Property Investors. So I also wanted to say, I'm going to start doing this. If you're on Spotify or you listen to our podcast, give us a rating, preferably 5 stars, because I want to be able to get this podcast. We were looking at the numbers the other day, and we're going pretty well. But imagine if we started up. So give us a rating, give us a thumbs up, give us a like, whatever, and throw some comments. And we want a heap of questions as well, people. So anything I missed, Joe?
I want to set up a gentleman's and a ladies' agreement here where, we give out all this content for free. We put together these amazing people. We don't ask for anything in return, but if you could, please, what do they want? What's a good little gentleman's agreement to, follow us on Spotify and do the subscribe thing on YouTube, because the only way we can get better guests is by growing the podcast and getting more people out there. Lucky enough to have Ross here right now, but little gentlemen's, ladies' agreement. If we're giving you some value, throw a like, share it around to people that you think might enjoy it, and that's how we'll get it out there a little bit more. So that's all I want. Ladies and gentlemen's agreement.
I like it. We're going to throw our first. We're going to throw our first. We're going to pay the bill. So Joe, run it.
Pay the bill. How do I do it? This live session is sponsored by Scott Agate from Hello House. Scott has created the world's first property negotiation as a service business. So what does that mean? Well, let's think about it. When was the last time you negotiated on anything over $100, let alone a property that is going to be one of the biggest investments of your life? The vendor, they have a trained negotiator on their side in the form of a real estate agent. That's kind of like you stepping into the ring with Mike Tyson after never training a day of boxing in your life. These guys are trained professionals, and that's what they do day in and day out. And this is what Hello House does every single day as well. They negotiate on property to get the best buy price from the real estate agents. Scott Agate, he's the expert negotiator. He has been in this industry since 1995. He owned and operated 3 Bell franchises. Scott was the guy that was teaching these real estate agents all these agent games. He knows all of their tricks. Having him on your side is going to give you a massive unfair advantage and literally save you tens of thousands of dollars. Unlike other ways of purchasing property, Scott's incentives are aligned with you, the buyer, meaning the more money he saves you, the more money he makes, which is what you want. You need to have those incentives aligned. Scott has kindly offered our group a massive discount on the retainer fee for his service. So if you're looking to buy your next home or investment property, click the link below to get in touch.
Oh, we're back. We're back. So who is the person? Sorry, I've muted. There we go. So who is this person? The person of the hour with the Homer Simpson. I'm going to be distracted by that most of the night. How good is it? So Ross, you've been working in housing design since 2008. That must have been. We could probably have a podcast about that, asking you questions about the GFC potentially. And you've had SABD, which is South Australian Building Designers, since 2012. 1,000 plus custom designs. Residential development since 2009, and 50 plus developments, and your interests as well. A family, crypto, and investing. Geez, I think you like a bit of travel as well. I saw that.
I do. Yeah. Just came back from Singapore. Yep.
Yeah, I thought it was Singapore. Was that where you had the big giant popcorn?
It was. Yeah. Yeah, they're out of control in Singapore. What an amazing place.
Yeah, wow. Also like a bit of poker we were talking about before. But no, we are here to talk about property development. So, and the question we love asking people first up is, tell us about your first property investment. Like, how did you get into it and how did it go?
Yeah, so first property was back in 2008, just as the GFC was just around the corner. I was one of the last 97% loans with the 18 grand homeowners grant. And basically was speaking with a broker, just had my full-time job for maybe 6 months, was just enough time to be able to sort of qualify for a loan. And I think I got pre-approved for 275. So I went out that Saturday and just offered on everything that was around that mark pretty much. And lucky enough, managed to get one of the properties. I mean, obviously there was stuff that I was sort of interested in, like properties that sort of were suiting what I was wanting as a first home. But fortunate enough to find a corner block, about 760 square meters, and it had a big shed on the side. Then it wasn't too much longer, maybe 3 months, 4 months of living in that house. You know, obviously house hacking, had a friend move in with me to try and help pay the bills because then the GFC hit and stuff went sideways. But yeah, I was working for an architect at the time, designing houses for a larger builder in South Australia. And we're doing a lot of small designs, you know, down to anywhere from 120 square meters to 150 square meter homes. And I was joking one day saying, hey, this house would literally fit in my backyard. How hilarious is that? And then light bulb literally went off like, oh, I should put a house in my backyard. So yeah, obviously having read the books, you know, Steve McKnight's book and Robert Kiyosaki previous to that, you know, always wanted to sort of get into the property game and thought, yeah, let's actually just do the division and start seeing how we go, try and keep the house. I literally had zero idea, absolutely no idea what I was doing at all. And it cost a lot of extra dollars, but I got a crap ton of experience from being able to do that deal, you know? So yeah, pretty crazy.
Real. So you didn't even go into it like knowing that it was a corner block that could be subdivided and split and set up?
No, it was a corner block that had a big shed on it, 6x9 shed. So for the next few years, all I looked for was 6x9 sheds, because that was kind of like a bit of a key going, well, if it's a corner block, and actually that was a lot of my research into realestate.com. Back in the day, you actually couldn't search land area. No matter how many times I asked them to add it to the thing, it just never seemed to come up. So you had to search.
Far out.
Sorry?
Like, what was like the dark ages where you couldn't
find
like a land size. Jeez.
No, you could do keywords like pool, 2-story, 6x9 shed, corner block. Yeah. And so that's what I used to do.
6x9 shed.
Stuff like that, you know, garage, workshop, you know, just try and filter out all the garbage and just try and come up with that, you know, 1 in 100 house that actually is suitable. Yeah. Now they've got the land sizes, so it's a lot easier for people. They can just, and obviously myself as well, just type in anything 700 or greater, no problems.
Can I ask one of those dumb questions, given that the show's quote? I'm not saying that Joe asked some questions, but I was thinking about this the other day, and given you've done so many developments, I've done a few as well, but the corner block is the reason, why is the corner block so favourable? I think I know the answer. It's
gold. So many different reasons. So generally speaking, the corner block, the existing house can be located in either or direction from one side of the street to the other, which allows you to keep the existing house, which is a very good first time. Well, actually, it's just always a good money-making development if you can keep the existing house. Second thing that's great about corner blocks is quite often they have one side a lot longer than the other. So when you try and do a 1:3, for instance, you get a lot more frontage, which is one of the requirements of council.
Ooh. I thought the reason they were advantageous, and maybe I'm not, is that they had dual access on both sort of sides. Like this, you could easily have a driveway on both ends. And is there any, or was I just not hitting the mark there?
No. Okay. Not that I've experienced. Possibly in an isolated incident.
There you go.
That's so funny. Well, I mean, it makes sense. Like, it depends on, I guess, if you're rebuilding, if the existing house is facing that way, then
I mean, not to say that that's not silly. I mean, there's a site that we did that we had a corner block, and like you say, the dual access. So we could literally slide one house up one way, keep the existing, and slide another house up top. Out of control. So we literally got backyard and side yard and kept the existing. And so that definitely plays into what you just sort of said about having the access from both sides.
But not necessarily the case. It can be.
But that was, probably not something that I would be aiming to look for, just more of a happy coincidence.
There you go. So where do we go from? Should we talk about the South Australia building code, Joe?
Yeah, I think it's worthwhile just to kind of set the scene to understand where are the opportunities in South Australia, and because previously, I mean, you'll tell us it was a little bit difficult, Ross, for choosing where, like understanding the rules and regulations around what's this rule in this LGA or suburb, and what are the rules in this one, and then the state government's taken over essentially. That's effectively the down version where they've just said, you know what, blanket rule, this is what it is. But can you talk to it? Give us a bit of a smarter version of that.
I'm certainly not a town planner, but I'll do my best. But so pre-1993, it was literally the Wild West. You just basically say, this is what I want to do, handshake agreement. Yeah, cool, you can have whatever you want. 93, they did a massive reform and basically put in a bunch of zones, in the zones had regulations and guidelines you needed to meet for all different zones. It was still very rudimentary. It had a lot of councils had similar requirements, but they called them different zones. So you might have a low density residential, and that might need blocks of say 500 square meters. And then you might have a existing residential in a different suburb, which also has 500 square meters block sizes. So same requirements, but they'd call them different zones. Very awkward to get around, very hard to go from council to council. And so obviously it made developing, I mean, once you got a hold of what you knew and you had a big portfolio of, and you knew all the zonings in each council, you know, obviously the world's your oyster. And then what they did is they tried to consolidate it, because I can't remember how many, but there was literally hundreds of different zones, even though there wasn't that many councils. So what they did is they consolidated it down in 2018. And so basically now you have zones such as what's called general neighborhood, which is what your typical zone would be for residential developments, all the way to say high density neighborhood, established neighborhood. Now, it doesn't matter what council, that zone has the same regulations, which is obviously really good for newer investors. Less so for me, because I spent a lot of time learning the old rules, and now the new ones are pretty easy to learn. But, you know, you just go with those two.
Well, this has been absolutely unreal for me, because, you know, buying properties in the north of Adelaide, buying properties in the south of Adelaide, it's so hard to keep up with what is every zone, but it's easy. You know, the general neighborhood has a 600 meter. It needs to be made of 600 meter minimum and a 8 meter frontage per lot. So all of a sudden, 18 meter frontage, 600 square meter lot. Great, that property can be subdivided.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
Not financial advice and all that fun stuff. But that's, I guess, kind of sucks for you, because you had that knowledge of, I know what a lot of people don't know, and now everyone else has access to it.
Yeah, you needed to really do a lot of research. You needed to speak with a lot of planners, be in council, speak with architects or designers. Like, you really needed to know, like, be in the know to get stuff through in different zones. Like, hopping from one suburb to another, from one zone to another, was a lot trickier to navigate, a lot more unknowns. Now the unknowns are just known unknowns. You know, the only things that really trip you up now is, say, HDN. It's one of the worst, high density neighborhood, and that's got a lot of local town variations. And so, you know, obviously using particular websites, you know, the government ones, which are, you know, free for everyone to use. And you can link everyone up that they can use that too. Just keeping a track of that, because, you know, just because it says high density neighborhood, which might have, say, a minimum land size of 270, certain local town variations might allow you to go down to 210. That's obviously pretty cool. But then some of them might also go to 300. Less cool.
There's also that quirk where if it's across the road from a park, I think that means you can reduce the lands in certain councils. I think that's Onkaparinga.
Yeah, Onkaparinga. A lot of the councils actually have that parklands or private open space, like council open space of a certain size. I can't remember the exact sizing. I maybe think it's like 1 hectare or something like that. Might even be less than that. Don't quote me. But basically, if you've got a park and you're across the road from it, direct access, you get a dispensation on your land size. So if you were looking,
20%, I think.
Depends on the councils and how lenient they want to be, because again, it is dispensation. That's not an actual rule. It's not a hard and fast.
We're giving some secrets away here, aren't we, Joe?
Initially, it's going to get rejected, and then you go back to them and say, "Hey, by the way, just letting you know, I'm opposite a park." Oh, great! Then we'll give you some dispensation.
Yeah, had no idea.
Rejected straight away. Why can't you just lodge it up front?
You just got to do the dance.
Okay. So it's like buying a property. You got to
they don't want to give up the power.
Yeah, fair enough. I see. Wow.
Yeah, there's a complaint. It probably doesn't make money.
Yeah. What are some of the resources and websites off the top of your head and should we drop these in the comments now, Joe? Like, so
well, we can go through a couple of them.
Just the main ones, like 2 or 3. What are the main ones that people should be considering? Sappa, I think, is that a big?
Sappa is the main one. That's the biggest go-to, in my opinion. I just shared the link.
SAPPA, Sappa.
Yep. .plan.sa.gov.au.
I'll drop it in the
comments. Brings up a map of South
Beautiful.
Australia.
Yep.
We're on real estate. Let's just grab a random listing here. Maybe this one.
Yeah.
45 Malone Street.
This one.
That's right.
45 Malone Street. This platform is absolutely unreal because it has very high resolution mapping and satellite, and it's very up to date. So you can see
about these images, right? So back in the day, I was literally so new at this. Near Maps had only just come out. So before that, the first couple I had to go through was Google Maps, very low res images. Then Near Maps came out. And so I could literally trace the boundaries, import the image into our architectural program and scale my drawings. So that's how I started doing the developments to work out whether there was enough backyard to be able to, subdivide or not. And Sappa has got the same ability, being able to use the measurement tool and the area tool.
Yeah, so if we go to this one here, 59 Suzanne, and if we just look at this on face value, 700 square meters, and then we zoom in, we're on satellite view already, we can zoom in. We can then see what is our frontage on this property. Is this the measure distance, boom, boom, double click to complete. Oh God. I don't do it this way. 35? Sure.
Doubled it.
Is that actually? No, I think you've gone too far. Is that really the frontage? Maybe we need to look at
that's the front. Anyway, that's you can measure on it, but then you click planning and zoning, and it will give you the zone that this property is, and then it also allows you. Sorry, I'm kind of stealing your thunder here, Ross.
No, that's fine.
Let Ross explain it.
Well.
Yeah. Explain it, mate. So what have we got here?
So the property details, what are we in? General neighborhood?
Yeah.
So keep scrolling down. Yep. So there's no local town variations. They would have been up the top if there were. It would have been like I think it's called an LTV or something like that. And so then that'll tell you if there's any discrepancies from the original zoning calculations. In this instance, there's none. So then what I would then generally do is scroll down just a bit further. So you've got the accepted pathway, and then you've got the policies that apply. So in the zones and subzones, it shoots out the same thing again. You click on general neighborhood. And so if you keep scrolling through here, that'll then tell you all the minimum requirements for your side setbacks, front setbacks, land size minimums, where you want to go for if it's a road dwelling, a group dwelling. So here you go. Yep. And so they're the minimums. I'll go. That's what council would ask for, the minimums of what you want to try and achieve.
And then 9 meters where a battle axe, 5 meters. So you need a 5 meter frontage for a battle axe on this site, which is bloody massive. 5 meters frontage for.
Yeah. Well, that'd be the driveway would effectively calculate as that.
Yeah, there you go. What are the we'll get onto the meat and potatoes, the deals and for different levels of developers. But what are the sort of quick tools? Were there any other that we would add to that list?
What's another one?
Excel spreadsheet, obviously. I think without that would be dumb.
Specific to South Australia, though, Ross, is there one
specific to South Australia? Yep. That's honestly pretty much it. Just sappa, realestate.com. Yeah.
The other one that I look at that I find worthwhile just to understand a little bit more is SA map viewer. So location.sa.gov.au viewer. And this is pretty cool because it's got the high res imagery, right? We'll go back to this. It's pretty much exactly the same. But what it's got inside it is landscape and water. So you can see where all of the water course is, where the stormwater drains are, where all the easements and things are on the property, essentially.
Yeah, you can see easements on that one, can you?
Yeah, you can do. Or can you do easement?
Because we can get on Sappa, you've got services available on the layers. Excuse me, in the layers tab, you can actually infrastructure, and you can click water mains, sewer mains, Sappa. So you can do all that through Sappa as well. One other thing that I do use a bit, which might be worth mentioning on Sappa, is the topographic view, and that obviously gives you the slope because it's important to know how slopey potential land is.
That's super handy. Yeah.
Yeah.
You got
super. How do you get access to that? I don't think I.
On topographic, flick between street map, satellite, and then there's a topographic.
Ah, great idea. Let's go back to Suzanne.
There you go.
Oh yeah,
So,
yeah.
So if you zoom in a little bit,
does it have the contours?
It'll have the contours. So each of those lines, you can't go in too close, but each of those lines is 2 meters. So zoom out one more. Yep. So they're 2 meters. So you can interpolate between, say, that big thick one and then the bottom one and go, there's probably about 1 meter of fall, maybe.
And there's already a new development happening right behind this property where someone's knocked down the main house, put two units up.
Yeah.
Love that.
How up to date is this mapping as well?
You can click down the bottom. It'll show you the images on Sappa. It'll tell you the most recent imagery. So it can be anywhere up to like 6 months ago.
Yeah, it's very.
It's not a near map. But yeah.
Well, no, new map fly planes over the top and take all their own imagery. It's crazy.
Yeah.
I love that we went to that sort of detail. I didn't that was not planned at all. We just kind of went on a tools tangent. Like, so how good is that? So if you're loving that, drop us a like, drop us a comment or a question. There's been a good question come through, and we'll do our best. There were some great questions before the show as well. So shall we get into the main course, the property development deals, starting with the beginner? Or Joe, do you have any questions? I don't want to take your thunder, Joe. Any questions?
No, I've not got no thunder. I'm not Thor. But I think this next section is going to be all about like what are the type of deals that actually exist out there for first time investors. So like if you are thinking about being a property developer, what is the best place to start? And then we'll start talking about some more intermediate deals. So what is that going to be? It's going to be a 1 into 2. I think we're going to talk about retain and build, where we split up a block, sell the land, keep the house. Then we'll talk about a 1 into 3. So that's a little bit more advanced, where you're knocking down the entire house. And then we'll start talking about road dwellings and a little bit more advanced property development deals that you guys can that are out there.
7 into 15, wasn't it, Ross? Like
7 into 15?
15.
Oh, 5 into 15. Jeez, yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Bloody hell. Okay.
I'm looking forward to that.
So one question I've got as a beginner property developer, what should I be thinking? What should my first deal, like in your opinion, obviously, what do you think it should be the first deal that people do? Should it be like, hey, you know what? Screw it. Why start at 1 into 2? I should just go straight into a 5 into a 15. Or hey, just maybe don't go 1 into 2. Maybe you can go 1 into 3. Or heck no, the best place to start is X.
Yeah, I mean, typically I would probably suggest just a simple 1 into 2 where you can retain the existing, whether it be a corner block where you chop off the backyard or a hammerhead scenario. Mostly because you get that rental income while you're doing your deal, so you're not going to be hemorrhaging money the whole time. Having said that, there's plenty of new clients that I speak to that have never really done property development before. They come from a bit more of a financial background, and they have the ability to do just a straight 1 into 3 straight away. And there's nothing wrong with going down that path either. Provided that that you're seeking the correct advice and you're going and choosing the correct property, because they're both going to make money at the end of the day. It's just that one of them you're going to be paying for a house that you demo, plus then pay for builds. And then you might get paid back if you sell those houses or you start getting rentals. So, all of that's going to get factored in. Whereas the simple 1 into 2 where you can keep the existing, realistically, you can literally put a tenant in straight away in most instances, fence off the backyard, and then go do your division based on that fencing that you've put up. And so you get literally paid from settlement to hold that property. And depending on the area, it could be neutrally geared or very, very minimal negative geared.
Well, yeah. And there's so many after opportunities. Once that piece of land is there, you can sell that piece of land and then put that 250 grand into your front house and then have an incredibly cash flow positive front property, because you've only got a $200,000 mortgage on it now when it was 450, 500.
Yeah. Or depending on the scenario, again, some of the, obviously being a little bit younger back in the day, a lot of my friends, they were looking at their first homes, and so we were trying to find houses for them that they could potentially move into, and then they would subdivide the backyard off and then move into that one. They've now got a brand new house, so they don't have to worry about having any maintenance issues, etc. They sell off the front house, then they pay down a bunch of money off their brand new house, you know, and then use the equity of that, then go buy another investment while living in a brand new house, you know. So, you know, so many opportunities, so many different avenues. I guess you could just choose your own adventure, you might say.
Can I just throw a bit of elephant in the room, maybe even a bit of shade, because I like to sort of, it shouldn't always be, I suppose it's nice to talk about but how do you actually find, because we like to find some of these deals is really tough, I imagine, particularly in South Australia. They're not don't come up every day. So how do you how do you find ways to get access to some of it, or how have you done it, Ross? Networking.
Got to talk to every agent, you know, and let them know what you're interested. Originally, I used to try and play coy, like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just going to buy this. Now I don't give a shit. I say, this is exactly what I'm after. If you got anything on the books, tell me right now. Like, I'll go back to your office. Let's go have a look. What do you got? You know, so yeah, used to be a bit more, you know, play the game. Now I play the game. I just want all the properties.
Now the game, yeah, exactly. That's right. Yeah, rather than the game playing you play the game.
Yeah. My favorite part, because Ross and I do a little bit of work together. My favorite part is calling up Ross, and I'm like, "Hey, how you been? Oh yeah, just bought another property." I'm like, oh, "What do you mean?" Well, you know, I don't really have anything for it, but I got a 6-month settlement, and I don't, you know, a 6-month clause that means I can pull out whenever I want in 6 months. So all I need to do is just, you know, work the deal out, get it all approved, and get everything lined up, and then I've just done the deal. Or I can pull out if I don't want it, but at least I've got the deal now. I'm like, what is it? It's like, yeah, you know, it makes this. And I'm like, Jesus, you're just playing the game on a different level that normal people just don't think about. So hats off to you in doing that. It's unreal. So when we're the first timer, so you're saying, you know, a 1 into 3 is okay to kind of start with, but it's just get your head around the rules and what everything is going. What is the process? What is it going to look like for you?
Yeah. So like I said, so, you know, like a 1 into 2, you know, all of them, they're going to start with, you know, obviously doing an appropriate amount of due diligence on finding the right sort of land. You know, we obviously just picked that property randomly there at 700 square meters. Now that would probably be an okay 1 into 2, but, you know, the numbers stacking in that's probably pretty unlikely unless you could keep that existing house, you know. So some of the issues you might run into as well with 1 into 2s, you know, your corner blocks, you know, you got obviously potential easements, you know, that could affect things. You've also got side entry pits or where your stormwater goes. That can affect driveways. Stobie poles, street trees, they can also affect driveways as well. So you need to be aware of this if you're trying to chop off a backyard, or even doing a 1 into 3. You know, they can factor in as well. They really can hinder where the driveway accesses go. But then also, generally speaking, if you're keeping an existing house, you're going to have a EWS, an effluent waste system, which is basically the sewage. And that's going to have an IP somewhere in a footpath or a crossover or somewhere like that. And that might not necessarily be where you want it. And it will actually cross over the new boundary inspection point.
Okay. Yep.
So that'll cross over potentially your new boundary. So you want to say chop off the backyard of a house. This is this corner block, right? And the sewage from all the existing toilet, sinks, laundries, etc., they cross straight through the new block. You can't do that. So you got to sever that sewage point and then redirect that sewage onto a new IP. Now that IP, obviously you've got to install. That's part of a division process anyway. But depending on where you've got to go with it, sometimes you don't have amazing access. And so then you might end up paying SA Water to extend their sewage line to meet your house, which is, I think at the moment, it could be even around like 12 to 1400 a linear meter. Or do what we mostly do, and we pay a plumber significantly less than that, although still a cost that you should factor in. And it might end up being between like 5 and 10 grand, and then literally redirecting the sewage all the way around the house to get to the street. So something to think
of. A lot more meterage, but still cheaper.
Insane that, yeah, it's like 50 meters redirection, but you're paying a person to do it instead of SA Water, and so it's a lot cheaper.
I wanted to take a step back because we're talking about sewerage, so we're going right into the dirty bits, the shit end of the sort of sticky. Before we even sort of start thinking about sewerage and inspection points and all that sort of stuff,
yeah,
what should somebody starting off? What should they do?
Just a lot of research. I know it sounds like boring and dumb, but honestly, like in 2008, I was literally spending every single lunch break, every hour outside of work, just looking at realestate.com. You need to know the market. You need to know what's sold, what's being sold. You know, it's pretty, even now today, you know, how often do I tell you guys about a property or vice versa, and we already know about it? You need to have your finger on the pulse. You know, having said that, you know, if you ask me about a suburb in Brisbane, I have no idea. Like, it's not my zone. You need to know what zones you're sort of in, and it should be within your price bracket, within the development zone that you'd be comfortable in developing. You know, there's no point looking at a CBD if you can't afford to build a skyrise. You know, likewise, if you're not looking at doing a rural development, maybe don't look out so far. So, you know, pick in suburbia, somewhere where you can afford, where the zone suits, and just know your market.
Yeah, that's such basic yet great advice.
Like, basic but boring, but you need it.
But yeah, not enough people do it. It's like, I like to say, you kind of remove all of the stuff off your plate, so you're just left with the gold, and it's remove rural, and then all of a sudden you were like, oh wow, I actually only fit in these 10, 20 pockets. Okay, well, let's do a little bit of research and see which of those 20 pockets are the best ones. Great, I've got a top 3. Now I'm just going to hone my craft onto these. But
you can add suburbs later. Like, don't feel like you're going to be missing out. You know, my hotspot, and still is today, obviously down south of Adelaide. You know, in those Onkaparinga councils and like that. But you know, there was a point in time where there was, you know, a very cheeky zoning regulation that went through in the Tea Tree Valley Council, where you could go road dwellings down to like 6 meters, which is insanely tight. And as a designer, you know, we could design houses at 6 meters or less. We've done plenty in Lightsview, which is down to 4.5 meters wide, which is insane. And so, because we knew that we could go down that as a designer, I could now go find sites in a new suburb, knowing the zoning. Now all I had to do was backwards calculate the prices. What does a 2-story sell for? What does an existing house on a certain size block sell for? And then, you know, it doesn't take very long. And so you can add to your repertoire. You know, just because you learn one suburb doesn't mean you can't go learn another suburb or another zone, you know, but you can't all of it at once.
Yeah.
What are really resources that you use to kind of learn? Like, how did you learn about property development to be able to go out there and make it happen?
With my money. You have to learn with your money. Like, you need something tangible. You need something real to have a potential loss. You know, it's like the stock trading, you know, the non-live charts. You can do that for as many years as you want and pretend that you're a stock trader.
Trading,
paper trading. As soon as you go live, your heart bounds. You know, everything becomes real. You know, when you start seeing that money withdraw from your bank account every single week, going, shit, I have a runway to make this property work. You know, and that's what happened with my second property, my second development. You know, sold the first block of land, put against a mortgage, didn't realize about cross collateralization, had bought the second property, and then all of a sudden it's like, I need this division to work, and I need the first block of land. I need the land to sell, because if I don't sell that, like, I have a 3-month runway, you know, or I'll be asking mum and dad for some money or something. So that put a lot of pressure on to get a sale, you know, which, you know, probably give me some PTSD on selling houses now, because that's probably my least favorite part of doing the developments. Buying's fun, selling not so much.
You can tend to hold your breath on the selling, because particularly I remember, I've done a couple of developments, and when we were selling our one sort of towards the back end of 2020, 2021, and that's when sort of people's finances were, you were like, oh crap, are people going to be able to actually get the loans to buy these properties that we've constructed? And you get one, because we did a triplex, so we did a free pack, and you sort of say, you get the first one, you're like, sweet, good, happy days, and then you sort of say the debt reduces, you do the second one. But winding back a couple of steps, just to really highlight what you were talking about there about doing the boring stuff. Everybody wants a result, but you absolutely have to understand what things are selling for, like the land prices, like, and really sort of digging deep. And if you don't do that, you may get lucky once or twice, but eventually you'll sort of run into something where you will lose money from a development or from a renovation, or if you're doing something. So if you're going to do something a little bit out of the box, you have to absolutely understand do your due diligence, understand what things are going to sell for.
I think it's just a bit of a life philosophy, to be fair, as well. You know, people expect to lose weight without dieting and exercising, or, you know, go to the gym for 2 weeks and wonder why they haven't bulked up. Like, it's just, It's consistent incremental gains, and you just got to put in the work, you know, whether it be for your, you know, your mental health or your physical health or your financial.
Yeah. One of these questions that have popped up here is, what's the minimum frontage and land size one should consider targeting? I imagine these are first time investor. So like, what are your kind of go-tos for a 1:2 or a retain and build?
Yeah. So general neighborhood, which is going to be covering most of South Australia, that's going to be 9 meters as a frontage, 300 square meters as a minimum land size. And that's for a Torrens title development. Now, if you go through for a terrace dwelling, which is where the dwellings are 3, it has to be 3 minimum for a terrace dwelling, you can go down to 7 meters. So that means obviously you only need 21 meters frontage. So you can get 3 on there. So that land size is 250. So typically speaking, I don't really look for land less than 750 because I would like to always have a contingency of a 1:3.
Yeah. Okay. So 750 with a 21 meter frontage. But the challenge that we have now is they get a premium on them because people know that they've got that extra kind of value add with that 21. But if it is opposite a park, like you've done a deal recently that's on a corner block that was under 750?
Correct. Yeah, 730, 725 or something like that. You know, so we're at odds with the development plan at general neighborhood, but we are opposite a park, so we're going to get some dispensation for that. And the fact is we're going to meet every other requirement in the code. So for them to not allow the development go through on one discrepancy being under or around about a 5% discrepancy, it's going to be pretty hard for them to sort of hold their ground on that one. So yeah. They're just gonna have to do it. One thing that I think is worth noting is that the South Australia rules that have come in now, I don't know if this is what I believe, but I don't know if it's the truth, Ross, is that they changed the way that you could do battle axes from 3 meter frontage to 5 meter frontage. Now, the reason why they did that is because they know that not a lot of properties in South Australia have a massive 5 meter driveway. So not many properties can be retained and built because they don't want 1,000 battle axe properties throughout South Australia. Yeah. Is that like a conspiracy theory that I've created in my own mind, or is that like something you share with me? Or finding a retain and build is hard in South Australia. It's very hard. So I guess, like to answer your question, that probably is true. There's probably not many houses that have 5 meters down the side to be able to get it through. Having said that, though, there's obviously, again, coming back to the network thing, having a team of people such as town planners, private certifiers, traffic engineers, if you get all of them on board to say that your development suits every single guideline except for that one regulation that council stipulated, 5 meters, which for what reason? They've said 5 meters for what? A town planner said, the development's fine. A certifier said it's fine. And you've got a traffic engineer that also says it's fine. Council doesn't really have much to sort of go back against, you know what I mean? So it's probably going to get through.
And
the sites, I'm just saying, make sure you speak with professionals.
Yeah. Probably the other thing as well I'd say with that is I wouldn't absolutely, if you think 100% it's going to get through, just be cautious, because like what is if you need, like, just don't go and bet the house on that getting approved, because if it doesn't, then what are the financial implications of it not getting approved, I suppose?
Yeah, and this goes back to why I said I don't really look for sites that are less than 750, because what if that doesn't go through? You know, worst case scenario is I'm going to just end up with 3 houses and some rent rolls, you know, instead of a hammerhead and some capital. Yeah.
Do we have a fees? Do we have like a property for the beginner? Should we? Where are we up to that, Joe? The content.
Well,
essentially, I don't think my first one if you want.
Oh no, that's all right. If we only got it for the intermediate, we can kick onto that one. I'm easy.
Yeah. What are the feesos we got here, Ross? Give us a bit of a run through. I got 2 feesos here. I've got. Well, actually, no. The feesos are for the property that is on the market right now, right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So let's have a bit of a conversation about like the type of people, like who is the typical person that goes ahead and buys a more advanced site, and can you talk to like what is a medium sized development deal? Like what are those, and can you talk to some examples of those and something?
So a medium one, I would consider something like a 1:3, 1:4, whether it be like a road dwelling or a terrace dwelling or a group dwelling, something where you've probably got to build out. Build costs, as everyone knows, they've just gone through the roof at the moment. But even back in the day, building out 3-4 houses is still expensive. Sometimes you could be out for $1 million just in builds on top of your original purchase price, on top of your holding and your subdivision fees. So as far as I'm aware, that's not really a beginner deal. Maybe for people in Sydney, but not for people in Adelaide. So, $1.8 million as your first deal is pretty decent.
Yeah, that is pretty decent. Even for Sydney. Yeah.
Didn't someone just buy a first home for like $2 million or something like that?
2.6 in Marrickville, and everyone's like, "Oh, Marrickville." It's like, I mean, yeah, I wouldn't pay 2.6 in Marrickville.
Over the top of it.
They could have bought like all of Hackam for that.
Yeah, but then you own all of Hackam.
We love people in Hackam though. You shouldn't.
People in Hackam are great. It's just Hackam. Oh dear. But so 1:3. Do you actually see investors coming to you as a couple, like as a group of investors? Like, I have cash. My friend here, Bob, he has borrowing ability. Together, we make one very good, solid investor. Let's go find a deal. Let's make it happen.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds like an amazing client. But no, at the moment, we typically find people that are like, say, husband and wife, or sort of professionals that have the ability, the borrowing capacity, as well as the cash. No, don't. And I think this sort of goes back to a few podcasts ago that you guys had, where you talked about the cash partner, the time partner, and the finance partner. I'd never even seen the phrase like that, and it blew my mind. I was like, wow, there's a finance partner that gets paid a small clip just for the finance ability. That's crazy. I was like, I got to find me one of those people. Normally we're dealing with either cash partners or time partners, developers such as myself. And yeah, the clients that we typically deal with are, you're more professionals that have the cash ability to be able to finish the certain types of developments that we're looking for.
Yeah. So if I was like a property investor just starting out, and I do have, $100,000 or something like that, like, is there something that I could do? Yeah, and I've got borrowing capacity to do something. Like, what are some of the outlays that I should think about, and what's my minimum entry? What's my minimum entry into my first development, type of thing?
Yeah, so obviously the generic answer would be 20% deposit. I'm a little bit against that. I maximize my LMI for the first few deals, many deals. The more of the bank's money I could borrow, the better. The least amount of cash I could put in, ideal. I was going into some of these deals with, only 20 grand deposit, maximize my LMI, and then spending the 30, 40 grand on reno and subdivision fees. So I'm all in for 80K, and some of the deals, they might only make less than 100, but I'm nearly doubling my money, So that's what I would probably be suggesting to people. I mean, obviously you pay LMI, you pay a premium, but if cash is the issue, if you don't have a 20% deposit plus 5 closing costs, then, you may as well just pay the LMI and then use that extra percentage that you save on your loan to go pay for your subdivision, rather than having a house that's a rental that you now need to also then somehow come up with 45,000 to subdivide.
Yeah, that's a great point, because if you're, I've got to save for another 12 months, 18 months. Well, it's like, LMI is just the cost of doing business. If I pay an extra $8,000, $15,000 in LMI, but I can do a deal that makes me $80,000 or $100,000, then it makes nothing but sense to pay the LMI and make the deal happen.
Yeah, and like you're seeing, like some of these larger sites, some of these people going into these larger sites, these 15 plus developments, they're paying 9% to private lenders because, they're just lending at a ridiculous amount because, it's not secured against the property, or it's very loose, about the development. So, when you go with a bank and you're getting offered, 5% interest or whatever like that, but you're only going to be able to get 80% loan, that's going to obviously hinder what you can borrow, what your borrowing capacity is, regardless of your payback. If you don't have enough cash to go into the deal, then you just do it as miss out on the deal anyway.
Yeah. I would, the thing I'm probably, although I just say people should be like mindful of over leveraging. So just, I mean, I suppose I'm pretty comfortable with taking a bit more risk, but I just want to make sure, because learning also to
young
Rick
jumped in.
Is that your brother or your dad or your uncle?
Yes.
Like, who's Rick?
That's my dad.
Yeah. I like it. Rick.
Lending would also depend on the investor's risk
I mean,
tolerance.
I'm probably a bit more risk tolerant because
Daddy Rick, how risk tolerant is young Ross? How would you say he's high risk, low risk, medium risk?
High risk. I'm all in on black.
Well, I think there's a difference between risk and, I suppose, because risk is not knowing what you're doing, because I think you really know what you're doing. So whereas I think
my risk is holding 3 properties that pay their mortgages. That's like the worst case scenario. The market tips, it goes down. You were expecting to sell your houses for say $600,000 each. They're valued at $500, but they rent for $600 a week each. So you just hold them and let them pay themselves off. Like, is that a risk? In my opinion, not really. It depends how leveraged you were, I guess. Did you get a 9% loan to it? Otherwise, if you do just a regular loan for it and your holding costs are okay, and you went through the normal channels with a mortgage broker, obviously that's all gets buffered out anyway. Your income it doesn't change. So you've got a pretty stable job, stable income, etc., stable lifestyle expenses. Your biggest risk now is that the development didn't make money, but you just hold properties that just make income. So that's my opinion anyway. Again, it might be not what most people want to do, but that's the case scenario.
You absolutely nailed sort of talking to the exact thing I was thinking in my head. So thanks for doing that, Ross, mate. It's like we're in tune or something. So we talk about the advance. Like, let's unpack that 5 into 15. Like, how does that happen? Like, what does that look like? I'd want to like talk to that. That'd be great.
Yeah. So obviously, clearly starts with buying 5 properties, or accumulating a larger parcel or a large enough parcel of land, where you can subdivide into just an amazing amount of dwellings. It could be, into 15, could be 19, could be 20, whatever, just a huge amount. And generally includes adding roads. It's pretty rare that you'll find a bunch of properties in a line, all street frontage, 5 in a row, and you can just bulldoze them over and then just go chop, 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 and basically do 5 separate 1 into 3s, effectively. Very rare. Your 5 into 15, or say your larger, more complex developments, they might have a single frontage, large frontage, but you'll have a single driveway, and then you'll meander through, and then you'll just access all the properties from there. So
I feel like I need to visualize this. Have we?
Yeah, it makes sense. You'd have to have a little road at the. Are there any examples that we can throw up on Sappa? What are you thinking about? Why are you thinking about that?
One that I helped with. Let me just pull it up.
Or would you want to send it to me?
Yeah, I'll share the link.
What are some of the more creative strategies? Maybe they're advanced, maybe they're not advanced, but what are some of the more creative strategies that you're seeing around that have you a little bit excited? Are there anything like that that's floating around?
Great. I come up with the craziest ideas sometimes. I don't even know if they even work yet. There's just so many ways. Like, there's obviously you've got group dwellings, terrace dwellings. There's just so many different ways you can chop a site up. And this is the thing, you've really got to just do your numbers on almost every single scenario and work out which way is going to be the best fit for you, profit-wise, and outgoings as well. Like a 5 and a 15. Do you just sell the house and land? Do you just go pay a designer or a builder to go design up 15 different houses, and then just go sell each block of land at your profit margin, and then the new buyers go build the house through the builder? Or do you literally have enough money to be able to build out 15 houses and sell brand new untouched houses? So yeah, that's a lot of capital.
And the problem is no one person really has, well, maybe they do, but they don't generally are bringing on investors that want a return on their investment, right? They want to get that capital back. So you have to sell those properties to be able to pay back the investors and then get your little return on investment as well. One thing that I haven't seen too much of in South Australia are duplexes, where it's 2 properties on one title. So I see duplexes in like in the council, what's it called? The housing commission areas. Forgot what you guys call it over there. The housing commission areas.
Yeah. They're like semi-detached houses. Yeah. A lot more typical, like in the more northern suburbs. There seem to be a lot more. I think they sometimes get called as masonettes, if I'm not mistaken. And yeah, basically it has a central dividing wall, usually double brick house. It kind of looks like one house, but it's been separated. Actually, I reckon there are some down here as well that we see sort of in the Christie's Downs area. And yeah, they're on sometimes, I think ours are typically in 2 titles, but I think what you're alluding to is over in the eastern states is they have on 1 title, and then they obviously rent out one side to another. We are starting to see a little bit more of this with certain builders that we do designs for, where they're looking at maybe doing a 1-bedroom unit on one side, fire rated wall on the other, and then maybe a 2 or 3 bedroom unit on the other side. How council receive this is, we're still working through the nuts and bolts of it, but that's definitely something that we'd be looking at doing in the future as people start to need more houses effectively.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just going to try and bring up this deal, but I can't seem to find it in Sappa.
You can't?
It might have reloaded already from Sappa into its individual lot names.
Okay, no dramas.
So this was a deal I found and basically rejigged for a developer friend of mine. And yeah, basically we came up with a concept division plan. We worked out, through council, and then came up with all the designs.
Well, this is the site. So let's just have a look at it as a site. 8,399 square meters. That's
looks
a
like
lot.
a jigsaw piece, that one. Look at that.
Yeah.
Let's bring up what's on it currently. Is that what's on it right now?
New houses are on there. This is an old development.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
So this is what it looked like when we first passed. Yeah.
Okay. So a nice little
acreage.
You're not going to upset anyone with it.
No. Yeah. And that price is obviously very good if you could purchase it today. But yeah, so that's we end up coming up with.
Yeah. Sorry, go on, mate.
Yeah, so in the end, what do we end up getting on there? Was it 10? I think in the end, 1, 2, 10 all the way. So that other requirements for that one. Obviously there's a bit of retaining required to sell the house land packages. There's a lot of easements on this. What do we got? Easement A, easement B, easement C. There's a lot of crossover easements. We also had to engage the CFS for fire access and egress.
And you've got regulated trees here.
Yes, regulated trees. So we negotiated with council which trees could and couldn't stay. Now, obviously, if there's a tree on a site, it's a red flag straight away. A lot more research should be put into that site. This site obviously has a lot of those trees, and working with council, working with the council environmental arborist on site and our own arborist, obviously, we managed to work around which trees were the most beneficial to the overall site, which should stay, and which would be detrimental, or which looked like they could have the best chance of being able to be, relieved of their duties.
So how do you negotiate that with council? Because I just don't know how that would actually go down. Because you're saying I need that tree to be moved, or the deal doesn't work for us. How do you negotiate? You know what, Mr. Council, I believe this is a good tree, but it would be better not there, and I'll plant one somewhere else. How does it work?
Effectively, it's just, you negotiate with them. You go back and forth. What trees are most important? What trees are least important? You can't have all the trees important. That's why we have our own private arborist recommending which trees should and shouldn't stay as well. Effectively, they're the same level qualification. Just one person works for council, one person's private.
Yeah. And probably I'd imagine.
So what are some of the more significant and important trees in South Australia that we should be aware of when we see them on site?
Anything that's eucalypt is restricted. Anything over 2 meters is significant. And that obviously is going to have its own tree protection zones. Pretty much anything like that. So they're all trees, unfortunately, they always pose just a bit of an annoyance. Council seem to have a bit of a flavour as well at this moment. Probably in the last year and a half, all trees are getting looked at very severely. So even neighbouring trees, they'll ask you, what's happening with that tree, how big is it, what type is it, etc. So it's just good to just allow an amount in the spreadsheet for an arborist report if needed. If not, well, then it just goes back onto the profit margin.
Speaking of profit margin, One of the things that comes up all the time is I must get a 20% profit margin. So do you subscribe to that? Do you not believe it? Do you have a minimum? What are your thoughts on a 20% minimum return?
No, I don't aim for 20%. I aim for the most possible. So, if it's 30%, I'll take it. If it's making money on a deal that went sideways, then I'll take the making money part. So yeah, I'll, ideally, obviously 10 to 15%, but realistically, my main goal is cash on cash return. I have a limited amount of cash, I think, as everyone does, because no one's the bank. They can't just print anything else. So whatever cash you put into the deal, I want that much back, plus ideally that much back again. I want to double my money every time I put money into a deal. So if that means that, this is why I don't really like putting in like $1 million into a deal to return 200 grand. Because I've risked $1 million of my own to get 200 grand back. I would rather risk 200 of mine, 800 of the bank's, and then still get the 200 back.
Which is 100% cash on cash return instead of a 20% cash on cash return, which.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that's me. But yeah, every investor is going to have their own reasons why. There's another reason why private lenders lend at 9-10%. Because they don't want to do the deal or the work themselves, but they're happy just to take 9-10%. That's fine for them. They don't have to do literally anything. They just run their numbers over someone else's deal, take 10%, no problems.
And then with the potential, they take the security on the property or understand exactly what they are sort of taking.
Yeah.
The way I kind of think about that sort of is I want to understand how much has to go wrong for this deal not to break even. Like if there's only one or two things that need to go wrong. If there's going to be, then why should I do the deal? So, 20% is great, but if you're doing a $5 million deal, then 20% profit on costs, that's $1 million. So you're saying you need to go and find a deal that's going to make $1 million? You might find one in 1,000, but
yeah, exactly. It just limits you what deals you can do. Another mantra of mine, if you will, is fast money makes money. The faster you can get in and out of a deal and make money, the faster you can go into the next deal. Opportunity cost is, who wants to sit in a deal to make 30% when it takes you 5 years?
Yeah, 100%. Like that's exactly the point I was going to mention is, would you rather 10% in 6 months or 20% in 18 months?
Yeah. Option A, every day.
Every day, if you can turn it around quick. Well, obviously, if all things being equal.
Yeah, that 10% one probably was a pretty easy one too. Probably a straight split, no worries, no hassles. 6 months, that's easy. That's probably just a straight land division land sale. The 18-month deal, that could have been a build out. Now all of a sudden you've got dealings with the builders, dealings with sales of new houses, open homes, all that sort of stuff.
And
that's not actually either. Land sales can be hard also, especially back in the day. Plenty of times waited 90 plus days to sell a block of land. That's stressful.
Paying interest the entire time. There's a great question that came up just about talking about risk. Thanks, Ryan. What are the risk mitigation strategies with builders potentially going broke and price escalation potentials? Fixed building contracts are a thing of the past in my experience.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, that's a difficult one. Honestly, you just have to sort of, I guess, navigate each process. When you go into a division, if you've chosen the outcome is you will be building out, because that's obviously the path you've chosen. Then you're just going to have to do a lot of research into the different builders that you choose, and being comfortable that the builder you've chosen, A, can stick with the price that they've given, and B, actually going to be able to deliver the product on time. Obviously people are very scared from what happened previously with the market. With the build times blowing out, material shortages, increase in prices. We are starting to see prices starting to come down on builds. Lead times as well for the actual build completions also coming down. But that's not to say that the builders aren't going bankrupt. That's everyone's next fear, is the builder's going bankrupt. You need to get comfortable with your builder and make sure that you are confident that they're going to be able to build out your product effectively.
How does the average person sort of understand that? Or is it just you have to? What questions should be asking a builder to understand that?
Yeah, I'd love to just say stick with your bigger builders, because theoretically they're the most safe. most people keep their money with the big four banks for that exact reason, because they're the safest, you know. And at very least, even the big builders, they're going to have insurance, you know. You go with a small builder, they could be doing dodgy stuff, or maybe not keeping their insurance up to date, or even worse than that, just taking a long time to go into liquidation, which means your project sits there for a very long time before they go bankrupt into liquidation, before the insurance pays out. You know, not to say a bigger builder would do that, but there's just probably a little bit more safeguard with the bigger builders. So yeah, well, if that's really can, you know, hold ups of doing a development, don't choose something that you have to build out. Like easy, just choose a sale.
What's your definition of a small builder, a medium builder, and a big builder? Because that'd be interesting to get your thoughts on.
So a small builder, probably someone like me that builds like one house a year, pretty much private only. Medium builder would be like anywhere between, say, like 10 and 30 houses. And I would consider any builder that does more than, say, 30 to 50 houses plus. Obviously, some builders do 1,500, but I would call them like a national builder. Anyone that does, say, 50 plus houses a year, I would consider them like a relatively big builder.
Yeah, but I mean, is that per house? Because that could only be like five property, like 5 deals. You know, five of 5 is going to give you 25. Only 5 deals is okay.
What's that? Sorry, for the builder doing 20 houses a year.
Yeah,
that would be a medium builder. Yeah, anything doing like 50 plus would be a big builder.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting.
Because it still takes the same amount of time to actually put those houses up. You can't knock just because you're doing it on one site doesn't mean it's still the same amount. Still getting paid the same amount, or maybe not. Actually, that's a question I had. Let's just say if you're building, instead of building 2, you're building 10. Do you get I imagine you would get a volume discount. I've never built 10 houses, but
scale economy they call it. But yeah, builders don't say that effectively, but they'll definitely get, you know, you're going to have a supervisor there and he's going to look at all 10 houses. He certainly doesn't go back to the office, write his report, then go back and do number 2, go back and write his report. Clearly he's looking at all 10. You know, carpenters, obviously, you know, they're not going to give you much discount. They charge on a square meter rate, much like a lot of other trades, but you do get a little bit. You can push them harder. If you're doing 10 and say a carpenter wants to give you $1 per square meter, if you said, look, all 10 of them, knock $1 off, he's probably going to do it because he knows he's going to be there for the next, you know, few months, building up all the frames.
That's going to save you like tens of thousands of dollars as well, depending on how big the houses are. If you're doing
overall, but you know, 10 houses might also cost you $2.5 million to build, so you know, it's still peanuts.
Yeah, fair enough.
I'm excited to unpack a real deal that exists out there in the marketplace. So I think we should talk to that. I think my video's super.
You're lagging, Joe.
Right now.
That's okay.
Can you hear me properly?
God damn.
What have I done, Joe? Yeah, that's right. Should you go to the sponsor though, Joe?
I'm trying to do.
It's going to be a slow-mo.
This is live, folks, isn't it? Okay. The amazing thing with commercial property investing is that in most cases, it's cash flow positive from day one, which means that you can drive those profits towards paying down the debt. There are instances with commercial property investing where you can actually have the property pay itself off over 10 years, which is absolutely crazy. With commercial property, you get massive net yield, so you can expect anywhere between 6 to 10%. And as we've seen in the current boom, these properties not only provide large cash flow, they do certainly grow wildly in value too. Now, with big rewards comes some risk, and this is why you should de-risk your investment as much as possible. And the way you do that is with expert due diligence. And this is why we highly recommend people hire professionals to help you along in your investing journey. Steve Polisi of Polisi Property is one such expert. Being a chartered mechanical and structural engineer in a past life, Steve draws on his analytical and mathematical skills to do that expert due diligence for you. With 6 years experience in the space, Steve has over 1,200 property transactions under his belt. He's the guy you want in your corner, crunching the numbers and finding the best properties in the best locations, along with ensuring that you avoid the mistakes. Steve has actually even written the book on commercial property investing in Australia. And not only is it a bestseller, I believe it to be the most comprehensive in commercial property investing on the market today. He's been generous enough to give us a massive discount for our audience of 50%. So use the code OZPROP Click the link below, get a copy today, and start learning and getting on your commercial property investing journey.
Here we go. I think Joe's fixed it. He's back in real time. He's not. Yeah, I love it. How quick you fix that? So we have this is and there's been a whole bunch of questions pre-submitted, but before we even get to that, this is one of the more. This is a live deal. So tell us all about it, Ross. Or should we bring it up or should we talk to what it is before we reveal it?
Yeah, I think it'd be just interesting looking at something that's right now.
Yeah, I want to understand a little bit of your process when you were looking at this as a deal. So we pretty much said to Ross, hey, Ross, you're a developer. You buy deals. You see deals all the time. What deal is out there in the market that's right now? And you're like, oh, easy. I bet there's one. I could just throw a dart at a map and I'll be able to pick up a development deal. And we were like, oh, wow, okay, easy peasy. Let's do it. So what was the process? How did you kind of get to this one?
Yeah. So firstly, I started with the suburbs that I'm familiar with, on Coringa Council, and then basically just typed in 900 square meters and just went from there, seeing what properties come up. What properties are the newest? Search newest first. And this one came up. I think it was listed on. We're talking maybe Monday night, maybe Tuesday.
2 days ago.
Yeah.
So go on to realestate.com, filter it by property type, obviously, house we want. Now my computer's super laggy. It hates.
Just a little bit, because you want land as well. Sometimes people are just selling land if it's a dilapidated house that can't be sold.
Oh.
So if it's condemned,
So minimum land size 900 squares.
Yeah. That's it.
Okay. See what we got. Okay. So we're currently looking in a suburb called Morphett Vale, which is down south of Adelaide, about 30 minutes away from the city, close to the beach. As you can see, the ocean's right there. But we've got 3 properties. We've got a 1,500 square meter vacant land, so that's a good point you mentioned there. And then we have this property here, which is called 45 Malone Street in Morphett Vale.
They've upped the price too since it was first loaded. Yep, it was advertised.
Talk about it. I told you, Joe.
Yep. Yeah, what was it? It was 540, 589. No, have a look at the snip I sent through.
Yeah,
you can pull up on 2:35 p.m. on the 11th yesterday. It was literally 10. 549 to 589.
No, it is on 5. Oh well, yeah, they've added this.
The range.
Oh no, no. So this actually no. This range here that I've got here is a Chrome extension that I use that allows me to see where the agent has listed the price of where they believe the price to be, and it goes within 1,000. So that's super useful. I forgot what it's called. I don't know which one. Anyway, sorry. Ignore that.
High-end ask of 589.
Okay, so where is it? Here is South Australia. Yeah, here it is here. We're in Morphett Vale. This is a picture of Adelaide, South Australia. Adelaide is here. 30 minutes down, we have a little suburb called Morphett Vale. So what attracted you to this one? 900 squares, is that it? It was 900 squares, we got a deal?
Yeah, pretty much. Well, it's worth looking at. At the end of the day, 1 in 100 deals work effectively, and you're not going to get to that one if you don't look at the other 99. So you've just got to run the numbers. It's a lot of calculating. Like I said, doing the boring stuff, looking at realestate.com a lot. You see a deal, it looks a bit saucy, you run the numbers, you see if it makes sense.
So this looks like a really nice little set and forget type of property. What did you do next? We found this property. It looks like the grass is a little greener in this photo than it is in this photo.
Yeah, a bit cheeky.
Looks like a significant tree in the back, but yeah.
It's a big gum tree at the back. That's eucalypt, isn't it?
Yeah.
It very well could be, yeah.
But we're ignoring that.
You went, where'd you go from here? We found this site. How would you now assess this as a deal?
Yeah, so straight away I'd go to Sappa. I'd double check. What does it look like on Sappa? Okay. Let me go to my Sappa as well. So we know there's a creek that runs through the back there. I've done this area before, so I know that creek's not going to have too many flood zones. It is a creek technically, but it's not going to be done by any of those. You will have some tree protection zones, but knowing that it's a 900 site, meaning that if we go into 3, we're going to have 300 square meters per site. It's usually going to be enough to design a block around not intruding into the tree protection zones.
So you can see that there is a flood zone behind this this thing a little bit, and there's one here along this road. Can you talk to, just a quick offside, there are 3 different types of hazards flood zones in South Australia. There's hazard flooding, there's hazard flooding general, and there's evidence required. What do these mean?
Not typically that many developments in the flood zones, except for one which was you basically had to build on stilts in case of the flood, and that was obviously the most extreme. And I'm presuming the evidence required would basically mean that you could have to get a hydrology report. We are doing another site where we do have to get a hydrology report because we have a creek literally run through the property at the moment. So that would be determined by council. And literally, honestly, just a quick check with council and say, look, this is a property I'm looking at purchase. There's a flood zone here. Where does this fall, and what would be the implications? Just be a matter of asking.
Well, and also like just doing this map yourself. Like if you go up this street, you can see here we're on the Malone Street now. There's that 3 site that we were looking at, and then you can go up here. Here's a battle axe property right here. There's already a battle axe. There's already precedence for a battle axe just here already. So it's like, okay, well, they've put it here. This may have been before the 2018 changes, but there could be potential. And then you look at some other sites like this one here or this one here. What's the distance between here and here? 4.7%, 4.7 meters.
Probably. Yeah.
Might be able to squeeze something in there, get down there on the real.
Yeah. Hard to say. I guess we'll find out.
So we got this big site here. What we look into sappa. What are you just going through what we already went through before? Like you're just looking to what are you looking for?
First thing I actually do is I actually draw around the map in sappa. Now the reason being is sometimes agents actually will just use core logic or RP data to get the site size, and sappa is generally not 100%, but generally more accurate. Obviously, depending on how good you draw. But we've had discrepancies where sometimes a site's been, say, 800 square meters and it's been advertised as a 730. That's a 70 square meter discrepancy. You know, that could be the difference between getting an extra site or not, or because the agent advertised it at slightly less than what it actually was.
So this is 898. So that's pretty close to what they listed it here. Correct. As a 912. So that's good.
So from here, you've got, a little bit of discrepancy. You're slightly under that. The 2 square meters wouldn't bother me at all. You could just put it down to, not clicking the boundaries well enough. But if it was even say 10 or 15 square meters under, you can't go past asking for the title. Now obviously someone like myself, obviously in the design game, I can draw that title up, no problems. If you've made friends with a surveyor, you could probably get them to draw it up as well to calculate, just to be sure. Yep. And sometimes the titles themselves actually say the square meters on there, so you can be certain of the actual land size.
One thing I've just kind of noticed here is just listening to you, you're saying, I'm looking for a 750 square meter block with a 21 meter frontage. This has a 29 meter frontage. That's bloody massive. So this is why you're more attracted. We lost.
What have we done? Yeah.
Oh God.
What's the zoning on it, Joe? I think we know the zoning, but
this is general neighborhood. This one.
Oh,
so you go. I've lost it. God.
Oh, he's back.
Back me? You back?
Yeah.
Hear me?
Yeah. Yep. You're back.
Gotcha.
Okay. So how do you figure out your walk away price on this one? How do we figure out what do you do next? Like they're asking for 550 to 589. What do you look at?
Yeah, so I start by probably just putting in their high end price, especially in the market at the moment. Like chances of stuff going for the high end is unlikely, but we just start with that and just sort of see where the deal sits. And we go, first option would be just to sell the land. Typically speaking, that makes the least amount of money because it's the easiest to do. So, we know that the division's going to be okay through council. We know the guidelines. We've looked through sappa. We've checked the width. We've checked the total area. we now know that it's a 1:3 Torrens title. You're going to get 3 times 300 square meter blocks. Each of them is going to be over 9 meters wide. So everything is completely complying in this instance. So we start running through the numbers. We add in the price. We work out the demo price, the subdivision price. You've obviously got closing costs on the purchase, conveyancer fees, stamp duty, etc. And then we just basically start working out what will the land sell for? What are other 300 blocks selling for in the area? You know?
Okay. Well, let's do that. You've already done this for us. So in Morphett Vale, we've got a property here, which is, well, I don't know how many square meters it is. 500 and...
No, that's the existing. I'm looking at the one on the right.
Right.
So that's
it's a corner block.
Yep. So that would be like a great 1:2 for a first home buyer or a first time developer.
$232,000 for a lot of land, 300 square meters.
That would be irregular, and this one is also a bit irregular. Not that weighs in much, but it's just something to factor in as you get more experience. You start to learn a 9 meter frontage or a 10 meter frontage is a lot more desirable than say something that's only like 8.5 or something that's on a bit of an angle, because you get a bit more awkward shaped designs.
Then we have 245. So I'm starting to see land prices around that 250 mark. Like if I was to sell, like based on what I can look at. So I'm selling 250 times by 3 is going to give me $750,000. So if we get rid of our purchase price of 600,000, there's $150,000 there just straight away that is spending to get the job. I don't know. What do we do? That's just me, just 250 times by 3, get rid of the purchase price. What else are we looking at? Yeah.
So you've got your subdivision and closing costs, obviously. So a subdivision like a 1:3, that's going to cost you, close on $38,000, give or take. You've obviously got the demo. Unfortunately, this house is a pretty good nick. So, it seems a bit of a waste to get rid of a house like this, but, still just run. It's good to run the numbers anyway. I'll still bulldoze a brand new house if it makes me money.
Just hopefully you could pick it up and move it somehow. If this is this valuable for people, by the way? I feel like I'm, let us know.
I mean, it's super interesting just to actually see as you say, you only experience when you're actually doing it. And I know this is kind of like paper trading, but I think I can sort of see the twinkle in your eye when you're looking and you're kind of, the gears are turning. So this is the kind of stuff that if you want to get into developing, you really need to understand and think as close to, maybe not straight away, but get to the stage of what Ross is doing, like thinking through all the eventualities and all that sort of thing.
Yeah, there is many ways, there's obviously multiple ways you can skin a cat. There's many ways a deal can go out, and the deal can go out backwards. You can lose money, or a deal can go out forwards. And you need to know the possibilities of what a deal could do to then work out whether the deal is even useful. Like I said, you might look at 100 advertisements or 100 properties, and then just quickly skim over and go, is this a 1:3? Is it a hammerhead? Is it a 1:4 or 5 or more? And then from there, you work out, am I even financially viable to build out 4 houses? Say this one here, we've got just the land sales as the immediate thought, for the 1:3. But realistically, you could build out those 3. If you're financially fit, you could build out all 3 houses if you're able to. Maybe you sell one of them, pay down 2. Maybe you sell down 2.
And what I love is that this is just a basic calculator. It is, the purchase price is $589,000. Your deposit, so how much cash do you actually need? $117,000. Then we have demo costs and closing costs. So I imagine the closing would be your conveyancer. It would be your legal, your buyer's agent if you decided to use one. It would be a stamp duty and all of that included. So that would then mean you need to do this deal. You need $238,800.
Correct. Yeah, including holding costs, demo costs, subdivision costs, all of it. So all in for 2.
Okay. And then what did you say?
80%
per land.
So I did 260. Again, it's maybe a little bit higher than what you were estimating at the original, Joe.
I just based it very loosely. So
I might be slightly more hopeful, but obviously those other blocks, I was also knowing that this area is pretty nice. Those other blocks, every suburb's got their nuances. Morpeth Vale is one of the suburbs that I'm pretty familiar with, having done it since 2008. So I'm pretty confident that you get 260 in this area, probably higher, but 260, I'd feel pretty confident that you get 260 per block, given that'd be very conventional, wide enough to fit double garages on, and just in the sweet spot. And also north-facing rear yards as well. So you're going to get a lot of sun. You know, obviously we talked about those trees behind us. You've got potential tree protection zones. Most of your backyard's going to be private open space. Okay. You can't build it anyway, even if you want to. So it doesn't matter. Again, these are the nuances from being a designer, not just a developer.
Yeah. But we're not interested in that right now because we're selling these suckers. So
260 per block.
Could I just take a step back? Did you say that you would struggle to build the free anyway because of not enough open space? No, sorry. You wouldn't have to worry about the tree protection zones. Okay.
Because you need a minimum of 4 meter setback from the rear boundary. You also need a minimum private open space of 60 square meters. So when you add those two things together, chances are your setback's probably going to be 69. It's like going to be close on like six minimum meters. You're going to be back. Those trees aren't on the boundary; they're further back again. Maximum tree protection zone's 15 meters. So worst case scenario is you build your house all the way up to the tree protection zone. You have 65 square meters private open space, a great looking gum tree out the backyard, all facing north.
Yeah, I love the way you think about that, because that's the sort of stuff that you can only like the expert or the professional sort of thinks about, and somebody who's got experience. Because that's what I love, having these Wednesday night conversations.
There's a great question that's come up that I like, and it comes in. It starts with: there seems like a lot of work, cost, time, and risk involved in general with so many possible sites to make money from in Australia. Why spend so much time on this? Is the profit potentially higher with more difficult sites?
Yeah, definitely. If you can solve an even more complex problem, you'll make more money, without a doubt.
Well, actually, and this example right now is a prime example of what Ross is talking about. This is the easiest 1 into 3 site, like not the easiest, but it's a 1 into 3 site, knock the house down. But we are only making $30,000 on the deal.
Yeah, this is as basic as it gets.
But would you do this type of deal? You need to invest $238,000. You're getting 30 out of it.
Yeah, with your money, definitely, for sure. Like if I didn't have to put the money in. No, it's not an amazing return. Like even the cash on cash is only 11%. You know what I mean? Like realistically, this isn't the ideal scenario, and this is why we run multiple scenarios. You know, if you think you're just going to just sell land on every single project and make money, then you know you're probably in the wrong game.
Yeah, and yeah, I guess 4% is.
I would be very surprised if you were to pick that property up for $589 as well. I suspect this is going for in the sixes.
I agree.
Yeah.
Particularly now we've spoken about it on a Facebook Live.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, go have a chat with Marg and the other guy, whatever his name is.
It's a nice looking house in a nice area. Again, another one of the reasons why I knew the land sales would go higher than 260 if they did end up doing it. I wouldn't be surprised if they put them on the market for 295, to be fair, and just wait to see what the highest offer comes in at.
And well, one thing I think is worthwhile mentioning is a lot of property is supply and demand, right? A valuable site is only valuable to someone who knows that it's a valuable site. So if everyone knows about these little about the basic rules about a 1 into 3, the prices are going to go higher because more people know that it's a valuable site. Like we were talking about before, Ross, you've got that corner block site that has a 10% variance. So nobody saw that site.
Yeah.
Like at an expensive, everyone's like, oh, cool, it's a 1 into 2 site. Don't worry about it. I'm not going to bother. So you purchased it for a lot less than what it should have been as a 3 site. So you had that advantage. You had that knowledge base that allowed you to get in there and get the deal. The deal done.
It's happened a few different times. Plimpton's an area. We didn't specifically go in there, but Plimpton's an area now, which is Anzac Highway, which links. It's the main road that links Glenelg through to the CBD. Very, very popular road. Great area, like realistically. Now, some of the zoning in there allowed obviously a lot more high density developments to go on. people were buying in there relatively cheap and starting to build out. By the time everyone cottoned on, including us, we started getting off markets as well. And people were just asking what I would consider unreasonable money for sites because of what people now knew that they could get for their house. You know, you got an old bungalow house on a 900 site, and they're starting to see, you know, a 3-story development go on there with like 7 dwellings. You know, where 2 years ago, 3 years ago, people were only chucking a 1 into 3 on there. You know, yeah, like I mentioned before about that Tea Tree Gully council zoning. You know, we could go down to 6 meters. You know, we picked up quite a few sites in there for various builders and developers. But by the time they start getting built out, people go, "What the heck is going on there? 1 giant house? Oh no, that's 3. Hey, I have a block of land that same size." All of a sudden, we've lifted the floor price now. You know, you're not paying 350, 360 for the site. Next site we're picking up for 410. Site after that we're picking up for 450. You know, so the market moves literally in the space of a year. And again, I could be wrong. I don't base my market research on new schools, new Westfield shopping centres or Bunnings. I base it on zonings only. But yeah, it felt very, very suspiciously similar to the amount of times we developed a site into 3 when it shouldn't have been.
Yeah. The on that sort of point about sort of supply and demand and sort of buying sites and all that, is it, what are your thoughts on, by the time it's gone to realestate.com, it's probably already been picked through by a lot of developers? Do you think that's a myth or a truth? Definitely
a myth. I had this conversation with friends ages ago, like probably 2012 when I was on like my 4th or 5th one. People were like, "Are you going to ever run out of corner sites in Morphettvale?" I was like, "No, because as soon as I'm rich enough to not be in Morphettvale, I'll go find somewhere else." Like Morphettvale, like the starting, you know, suburb, you know, and then you'll have other suburbs that people will move into in the higher ends. You know, I know people that do developments in Glenelg, they wouldn't touch Morphettvale because that doesn't make any sense. Yeah, well, it's just that tying up any capital in a suburb like that, you know, just doesn't make any sense for them. Unless the Morphettvale site is a 25,000 square meter site and they're doing, you know, 35 houses on there, it just makes no sense. So you're going to have all the hierarchy of the developers slowly moving up the ranks, you know. So, you know, as far as supply and demand, there's always going to be first homeowners wanting to get in, but they've got to be realistic. Are you going to be able to do a deal that makes you 250 straight away? Unlikely, like honestly. If you do,
what is your sort of what is your next level kind of development? What do you want to level up to next?
Commercial.
Ooh,
commercial. Yeah,
residential to keep or to commercial just for flip?
Commercial to keep. The yield is better, but I can't help wanting to do developments on commercial. So I'm just hunting for commercial that can be also developed. Just trying to find those arbitrage situations. Again, I've got a few sites that I've been speaking with the owners, corner blocks, main roads, something that maybe the building itself is underutilized. Maybe it's a giant store where they're struggling to fill out everything. And I'm like, you know what? This could do with a wall down here and another door, and we could put another tenant in here, something like that. Or maybe the bones are pretty shit. Maybe there's got like, you know, some damage to it. Maybe it needs a reno, and go, maybe we should just chuck a second story on it, renovate the whole building completely, big corner block.
Wow.
Yeah, we should have a chat with Andrew Bean. We had Andrew Bean on. He talks a lot about commercial.
Coming in a couple of weeks too, for those watching.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
Oh, get excited. I'm excited to have him back on. But yeah, he does a lot of commercial property deals and adds value to them and stuff. Going back to this deal, Daddy Rick has come in and he said, "I see this site as the 1 in 99 rather than the 1 in 100. And based on those numbers that you presented with land sales only, I can probably agree with him that selling that property would be...
Definitely agree. I'm not even going to say probably, like 110% agree. Like, I mean,
But this is the cool thing, is that just because it doesn't work for land doesn't mean it doesn't work for builds, or like you've got to run the numbers in all the different scenarios that are out there. So let's see what a build out case study looks like for this land. Now, this is one of the big differences that I'm noticing straight away, is the purchase price stays the same, the deposit price stays the same. The build cost, you've got an extra $750,000 that you're going to need some financing on. Demo doesn't change. Closing and subdivision doesn't. Oh, wait.
Went down a little bit because maybe it costs less because you're not selling as land. Is that why?
Not sure why it's slightly off. What's the difference? Closing division costs. Well, it's definitely a fair different. I don't know, whatever. When I went cheap.
I think.
Yeah, it's like 20.
20 grand difference.
Yeah,
no,
that's
just under. That's all right.
Let me open up the app.
Well, this is, I mean, you've cut this down to what you usually have as well. Like you've bundled a lot of the costs into one, so it's not.
Yeah. Spreadsheet's pretty comprehensive in the back end compared to what yeah.
I appreciate that. So yeah, closing subdivision costs, cash required, 200.
Probably an extra 80K roughly. Is that the same?
I think you've given us some dodgy
numbers.
Actually
less.
Mate. Wait, why is 216,000 in cash? You've given us the wrong numbers, Ross.
No, it does look like that. What's going on with this one?
Oh, that's all right.
No.
Live, folks.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, this is live.
Live TV. Speaking of live, how good is he got all the games of AFL in Adelaide this weekend? Hope the Swans win. Bloody smash Richmond. Anyway. I digress. So Joe, are you looking at AI again, Joe?
Oh, mate, actually,
you know what? It's a typo, and this is like super easy to do. Oh. The case study one for insurance, $25,000, not $2.5 to set up a trust.
Oh, okay. Oh.
So the cost is significantly higher to set up a trust than not.
Okay, yeah, 25 grand. Okay, cool. That makes sense. Yeah,
you've always got to double check your numbers. So the actual number 2 is right. So number 1, let me just share this with you, Joe.
Should be about 70. Yeah.
Well, Jeff, you were just asking me about AI. I built this little thing, and people can play around with it if they want. This new AI thing is absolutely unreal. I created a form that people can fill in, and essentially don't know where to buy an investment property. The AI generator builds a property plan specific to your needs. So you just click in, what's your name, blah, blah, blah.
That worries me a little bit, Joe. You need a license
from a financial advice point of view, don't take this as financial advice, but you choose the state that you're interested in, you choose the budget that you're interested in, your minimum yield requirements, and then it factors in and spits out a report generated by AI to give you the specific areas and locations that fit your brief. Absolutely unreal. It's free right now, but I built it in a couple of hours.
I'd run that by compliance before you do that, Joe.
Yeah. But anyway, it's principlesai.com. But it's a little bit of fun, so don't take it too seriously, please, and don't sue me. Don't take it as financial advice. Let me just get this new one here. But it worked. The results are unreal. Like some of the locations that it brings up are areas that I'm buying in, and are like, oh wow, this is good. Okay, here are the real numbers for case study 1 into 3. Oh, that's just the land. What's the build?
You already had it, didn't you?
It's going to change. Yeah, the build is the right one. The land was the incorrect one. So the actual cash required was only 216,954, same as this one.
So how do I build out? Why do I get free? Like, how do I build? How do I pay for the properties that I'm building?
Which one? You've opened up the land one. So that one's the one that got adjusted. So the profit's changed on that one too now. That's at 7% instead of 4%. Yeah. And it's now at 20% cash on cash.
Right. Cool.
Unless you want to pay 25 grand to your lawyer to set up a trust.
It sounds like I probably should with this bloody Principles AI thing. Might need to.
So yeah, looking at the build one,
yeah,
you're going to need somehow to fund $750,000 worth of builds. $250,000 approx per house. Again, this comes back to obviously how do you choose a builder, the build costs. We factor in, that if you're going to build on a 300 square meter block, you're probably going to be building around 130 square meter house. And then just working with a lot of different builders trying to work out a build cost per square meter and factoring in landscaping. Some builders don't give you landscaping. Some of the larger builders, they won't do landscaping for you. They'll just give you the house and you sort the landscaping out yourself. So, if you just allow a good 10%, you should be able to get the landscaping done in that amount of money, especially if you got 3 and you got scale of economy.
Yep. Awesome. And it's as easy as that. I mean, does that deal work out, the build out and retain? Is that a deal that's actually worthwhile doing now?
Yeah, well, I mean, you get 9% return. Is that going to be amazing for everybody? Probably not. A lot of people are going to be wanting that, 15, 20%, because that's what everyone's taught. It does give you 50% cash on cash. If you had 200 grand just sitting there doing nothing and you don't know what to do and you're like, well, do I put it on Bitcoin or do I put it into real estate? Yeah, I mean, you pick your poison.
Yeah. And
would I do it for this? Yeah, 50% cash on cash is pretty reasonable. I probably would even try LMI.
Yeah, there's a good question that came up here about how long does the development process take for the demo and sell the land, and then how much is it for the time to build out and make it happen?
That's a good question.
In time.
Yeah. So typically speaking, you can get a development done. If you're in contract period for a month, typically 30-day settlement, you can start the development process in this same time. And then you'll be looking at, depending on your councils, obviously, you can be looking at anywhere between, say, that 1 month to get the approvals all the way to, say, sort of 6 months to get your titles. Your land sales can happen in that same time as well. So you can theoretically settle on the land and get the titles in that same week or same day.
Yeah, land, you can sort of, probably the longest time of land is actually to sell the land. Yeah.
So we try and, if we're going to have a deal and, get it under contract, start doing the division process, especially if it's just a land sale only, we'll try and get that land on the market ASAP, to try and make sure that we can lock in those contracts. Again, also land selling is the most stressful part for me. So, getting those contracts in place is one of my foremost things to do. And then for me, it's the formalities of just getting the division done.
Are there some tactics that you can use to get a fixed price for your land? Like sell it to maybe not a home buyer, but what are some of the more creative ways to lock in a price? Yeah,
you could do a house and land package. That's definitely a way that we've done before, where you sort of go, what's the average sort of house selling for in this sort of an area? And let's just say in this Morphettvale scenario, anywhere between 550 and 600 is what we're seeing house and land packages sell for. And so you work out that, if you can get it built for, say, 250, and then you go, well, I want to sell that land so the house and land package for 550. Well, all of a sudden you're going to sell your land for 300, aren't you? That's a lot more profitable to selling as a house and land package. Obviously the risk comes from the new purchaser. They buy the land off you. Once the titles go, they've purchased, they're done. They've got to deal with the builder. If the builder sort of, increases the prices on them, that's out of your control. And that's unfortunate, that does happen sometimes. So, maybe you leave some contingency in there. I like to leave a little bit more profit in there for the next person. Maybe you sell your land at 270 with a fixed price contract of 250, So then that leaves a bit more profit in there for the next person buying. It could just be a first home buyer, could be a retiree, whatever. They've got a bit more buffer in case that the builder increases the price on them. And you still get your money at the end of the day. You got 270.
Yeah.
Have you had any pushback from, because once you're locked into that particular builder, so have you had challenges, people saying, oh, look, I don't want to go with that builder, I want to go with somebody else? So that hasn't been a challenge you've faced?
Now, if they want to pay us for the land, then they can go choose whatever builder they want. Yeah, but we can't guarantee the price. I mean, we've got fixed price contracts on the builds of the designs that we've done. If they want to go choose a different builder, they can go take the plans. And obviously, I'm more than happy to let them take the copyright of the plans. That doesn't faze me as well.
Yeah. Yep. Oh, good.
That makes sense. So I guess with these build outs, what's the typical build out this day and age? Let's say we want to build out on this site tomorrow. What would you expect? Obviously you have no crystal ball, but what's the standard and what do you think it would be now?
Yeah, I mean, I've allowed 18 months in this project, just as a hypothetical case study. 18 months, 6% interest. I think 18 months is a pretty reasonable time frame to be able to get this sort of built out. That allows 6 months for division to go through complete, plus a year for the build. But realistically, there's going to be some overlap. Like I said, you're going to be lodging your plans of division straight away. You're also, theoretically, if you knew you were going to build out and that was the path you've chosen, you should also be looking at getting your architecturals and your building rules consent done at the same time. So as soon as you've got the certified survey done and your demo's done, theoretically, there's nothing stopping the builder from actually being able to start building.
Yeah, perfect. My other question, and this might be a silly one, is it hard to do property developments? Like, property developments for me 2-3 years ago was, this is impossible. There's no way I can learn how this stuff all works. It's absolutely mental and mind bending, and you need to know this, and this. But is it that complex? Like, I mean, you're obviously in the industry and know a whole heap about it, and maybe you're not the best person to ask this question too. But is it that hard?
I don't think so. Nah,
simple
not really.
but not easy, Joe. Simple but not easy is the answer to that.
Because I just find it's a process, right? The things have to happen, and things have to a checkbox, right? There's I think it was Daniel He was talking about checkbox manifesto, and there's a great book that talks about checkbox, and literally it's just, is this done? Is this done? No. If this, then what? If this tree is on here, what can we do? Oh, well, we need to get an arborist in. Okay, great. That's $1,000. Okay, well, just running through every scenario that could happen. Is there a way? Is there a way for someone who is a property developer to kind of get involved? A property investor. They don't have much capital, but they have like $50,000, but they could get involved with some kind of deal. What would that look like? I don't think it's a service that you offer, but maybe you do. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, that minimal amount of capital to sort of get started is going to be pretty difficult. So, you're obviously not going to be really financially viable to be able to buy a house by yourself. You're probably going to have to either go in with some other JV partners. Try and find a deal, maybe off market. Maybe you're the one that brings the deal to the table and puts a little bit of capital in and is happy to do a bit of the legwork while you learn. Maybe you take a smaller percentage of the deal at the end of the deal, to sort of make sure that you can still be a part of it. I'm involved in deals that are larger at the moment, where I've maybe found the deal or sort of assisting, doing some legwork, and I get nothing in return, just literally experience on some larger sites, putting in some learning. Like, if you can learn from someone like levels above you for free and not have to pay for it, why would you not want to do that? And if you've got to put in a little bit of work.
It's a great way. Is that how you kind of started? How did you actually get into development?
Yeah, like that first deal where I just literally thought I could just do a development in my backyard, like as a laugh. That was honestly, that's it. And obviously just knowing, like I've read, the Steve McKnight books, Robert Kiyosaki books, knowing that, real estate's the path that I wanted to do to be, financially free eventually. And just literally going, I don't know what I don't know, that full Dunning-Kruger effect. Just go, I'll just be a developer. That seems fair. And then just go along and just pay a crap ton. My first 1 into 2 development cost $45,000. That's insane. It's 2 times what it should have cost.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Yeah, I'm not saying screwed. I learned a lot. I paid a lot to learn on the first one.
Yeah. And then getting back to your kind of process-driven, Joe, yes, it is a process, and yes, you can sort of follow that, but there's usually 1 or 2 or 3 things that won't go according to plan. And it's then, well, how much is that not going according to plan going to cost you? Is that going to mean your deal lose you money, or is that going to mean you make, instead of making 150, you make 100K? I think that's probably the biggest challenge that a first time or a sort of a beginner developer makes or can make. Well, we made it ourselves in our development. We sort of looked and said, yeah, it can make 180, and I think we made 130 from it because COVID happened, which you can't predict that, but there are other things. We had to finance cost more, and then instead of paying 50K in interest, we paid 80 or 85K in interest.
Yeah. Yeah, all of those things can happen, and you just got to factor those in. You try and underestimate your sales, you try and overestimate your costs, you try and get your best purchase price. Money's made on the purchase as well at the end of the day. Obviously you make your money on the sale, but it's made on the purchase. So, you just got to make sure you try and factor in a lot of those things as best as possible and realize that, it's still better than shares.
Oh, gee. I grimace a little bit with some of these things.
Okay. Anyone that's got any questions over this session, because this has been super, super duper valuable. Thank you very much, Ross. And we've gone quite deep into time. So I appreciate you taking the taken the time.
There were just so many questions that people posted, and I was like, I should have told you. I said there's like 15 questions they're all really good as well. Like, that people put on. I actually did a good post for a change.
Well, let's get to some of these questions.
Yeah. We'll see what's in the see what's
anything
in the
you wanted to cover off, Ross, that we haven't really chatted to about this development process, or anything that you'd like to give to the people?
What did I have? No, I think we've covered like a fair bit of it. I just want to make sure, like, people know, obviously there is like, risks associated, with the actual development itself. Like you said, with the sewer augmentation, the actual council requirements, the deviations of knowing that just because the council says 9 meters, it's not a hard and fast rule. You can go above and beyond, but you've got to be experienced to know what to push and what not to push. That's why you speak with private planners.
Yeah. And that's kind of what you would consider yourself, a private. What would you call yourself?
No. That's a uni. I'm a building designer, property developer. Yeah, that's literally it. Yeah,
I just have your building license, don't you, Ross?
I do have a builder's license now. Yeah. So I can build out houses as well. Hopefully one day I'll be able to build out like a lot of them. But yeah, for the moment, just build like a primary place, a couple of other small ones here and there. So yeah, eventually be able to build out the developments as well. Sort of capitalize on that. I guess that last Easter egg that is the proper development game.
Yeah, because I find it super valuable because like everyone knows about buyer's agents, right? Buyer's agents help people find investment grade properties, and they help that end. But I don't hear too much about a developer's agent that helps someone handhold them through the process of buying a development site, and making sure that the council's all good, making sure that the town planner's doing their thing, making sure that the designs are done. Like, that's kind of like what I feel you do. Like, I don't know
what we do. Yeah. From the get-go, we'll help, find the site or source the site. We'll handhold them through the council process, the subdivision process, the design process. Obviously, we guide them in the direction of certain people that we trust in our network. Sharing our network is important as well. Obviously people can use their own network. A lot of people have their own conveyancers and brokers. They might have affiliates with banks, etc. But we just say, look, these are the people that we like to use because we get the results. Or you can use your own, and we'll just try and work in with them. Sometimes it works out good, and sometimes less so good.
I think the key thing is when you're speaking to a building designer or a town planner is if that person, they don't necessarily have to be a developer themselves, but it really helps. Like, somebody with your experience, it just adds an extra dimension. So, and then just understanding what their experience is, because I think it's kind of like our accountant that he's a big property investor himself. So this is an interesting kind of question here, or more of a comment, but be interested to hear you unpack this. Sounds great in theory, but trusting 10 different people to play along seems risky. Is it? What are your thoughts on that, Ross?
What do they mean by 10 different people?
Yeah,
well,
there was no. So there was your dad meant bring 10 of, it's because I was like, what do you do with $50,000? And your dad was saying, bring 10 of them together and set up a trust, and away you go. And then this person said, sounds great in theory, but getting 10 people along seems also really risky.
Yeah, you start to get into the
trust. Yeah, securities investing, basically. Yeah, looking into that. It's a big boy game, not for us.
Yeah, you also have to be very careful. You start doing
50,000 minimum financially. What is it? The thing is, just all of those things. Yeah, no, that's why minimal $50,000. Like, honestly, is probably just a too smaller of amount to probably start your investing journey.
As a developer,
as a developer, for sure. Yeah, save up, get yourself your first house, and just make sure your first house is a development. It's not going to be the first house you want. And this is it goes in, I guess, with the philosophy of developing, or philosophy of like being financially free, is sometimes you've just got to take those baby steps first. You might not get in the exact area you want with the exact house you want, but you get a development, you make more money, you get some runs on the board, you get some experience, you get some equity, then you can go move into a slightly better suburb or a slightly better house. Do that a few times.
Yeah. And build upon it. Right. Put a hotel on top. I mean, put a house on, and then a house, and then you get your hotel, like in Monopoly.
Exactly right. Or just sit on 4 houses and charge lots of people rent.
That's what.
Stack those houses.
There's a question that's coming. Is it like anything we get better, the more efficient and the more that we do? I'm sure you would have said that about finding investment properties, Joe, 20 years ago. I guess the more you, how old do I look?
I was going to say, what do you mean, Joe, in primary school? Funny. Oh, no.
Yeah.
There are some too many greys here, so I don't like that.
I don't think you have greys here, don't you?
I got grey for the stay.
Definition. I don't know this. So probably, do you know this, Joe? Because we like Victoria.
So actually, there was a really good question that was mentioned before that asked, do you use? So Ross, what other platforms do you use? Yeah, do you? Being out of the loop a little bit. Do you use Archistar or any other programs to help you finding these sites and doing all of these type of things? Like just Sappa.
Yeah, Sappa. Sappa, honestly, is literally the only thing I will use. And then obviously, we have a drafting program we use to suggest sites. But honestly, most of the stuff, like you just literally showed live how to calculate that site area. That's all you need.
You work it out, and it will be on the contractor sale. So when that person's, is there a version for Sappa for Victoria? No, there are another couple of programs that Victoria use. It's the same with Queensland. But yeah, if you like invest in technology, like Archistar is pretty good. But to be honest, like Sappa, South Australia is better than Archistar. So you just got to you got to just search the council websites. And Jeff, we need to create a bit of a list actually for each state, because I use different programs for different councils, and it's really frustrating to try and find them because they're just weird names. Like one of that's called Sappa. What the hell does that mean? The other one's called location.map.sa.gov.
That one in WA as well. What is it like? What's that one in WA? Like map something? Map?
Just map ridiculous. That's what it's called. It's called maps.slip.wa.gov.au. It's got the highest resolution mapping and gives you flood zones, bushfire, and everything. It's just silly.
Unless you actually kind of know the right terms to Google, or that site, how the heck do you actually locate these things? So yeah, could be worthwhile. We could pin it to the top of the post. But yeah.
Yeah, well let's do that. Ross, this has been an unreal episode, mate. I've learned a lot. I've learned that not all the deals make sense, but that's absolutely okay, because if you crunch the numbers enough, you'll find you're 1 in 100.
You got to try this on.
How can people learn more about you, mate?
Yes, we're pretty low key, actually, to be fair. We literally have just a splash page, no Facebook page, an email address. That's it. Selective with our comments.
Tried to look you up. Like, I'm just trying to see where you are.
I'm trying to be like, you're just so chilled with it, because I think your problem is not clients. It's it's finding doing the time to actually do them. So if you do want to reach out to Ross and you are looking for an investment property, a development deal, find a way to get in contact with him, because we're not going to make it easy for you. You've got a website. Yeah, reach out to me.
I'll drop you.
He's got Gambit. Gambit.net, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, gambit.net.au. That's the splash page, and from there you'll be able to get contact details.
Yeah, your phone number's on the bottom.
I've had some time to even upload some more of the projects that we've done over the last lots. Just takes so much time.
Yeah, you're too busy out there doing real deals.
Yeah, I'm not trying to be a professional web designer. Just want to do developments.
Have you got it, Joe? You got the website?
Yep, loaded it up there. There it is, gambit.net.au. Jump on there and learn a little bit more. But I think South Australia, for people that maybe want to get their head around the process, is a great market to look into, to understand. Very affordable as well.
Becoming less affordable, but yeah.
Becoming less affordable, yes. But you can understand the rules. And the good thing is you don't have to go it alone, right? You don't have to go out there and be the one. You can have team members like buyer's agents, like development agents, people that can help guide you through that so you can actually make a profit. Yes, you're going to be paying those professionals, but hopefully, like you said, Ross, if you used a developer, you would have saved, $20,000, $30,000 on your first development.
Yeah. literally paid twice what I needed to for not knowing, you know. But you left, you know, so yeah.
Ross out. He's done.
I'm down. Mic drop.
No, I just want to say thank you. I mean, I've chatted to you a few times now, Ross, and Joe's been sort of talking to you for probably at least 12, maybe 18 months. I don't know how long, maybe longer. But no, I love the enthusiasm you have for development, because for a lot of people, they're jaded by experiences, particularly I find in Victoria, they whinge about VCAT, and they're like, oh, you know, like VCAT's so hard. Like, I just hate developing now. But you just have that exuberance, which I think shines through in your passion for what you do. So thanks for doing what you do, and thanks for jumping on and spending 2 hours with Joe and myself. And
not a problem. I appreciate it. Yeah, for sure. Will do.
Love it. Let's do it, guys. Well, thank you very much. Let's go out there and let's go buy a property. See you guys later.
Cheers.